Hello everyone, my name is Jack and this is Homebrew Heroes, where I share with you all some homebrew content for the game, Dungeons & Dragons. So, Rangers. So they exist. If you have seen some of my previous videos before, you're probably well aware that the Ranger is my least favorite player class in D&D.
They're good at pooping.
Compared to the others, it's just so boring and bland and average. It's sad.
Just play a fighter with a bow, it's way better.
I want to like them. Believe me, I do. Whenever I create a character for an upcoming session or campaign, I try to think of a cool ranger character that I can use and kill things with. But every time I pick up the handbook to look at the ranger, this happens.
Oh, my book, it's covered in mud. Oh, no, wait, is that shit?
When coming up with homebrew ranger classes to talk about, I've always had a large amount of content to sink myself into, like the Dragon Apprentice, the Sky Warden, and the Camp Counselor. And I love that one. That's my favorite. I began reeling these in for writing, but I just couldn't find a good hook for them, and my motivation for a ranger video would just swim away. Just like my 2020 summer plans. So let's talk about a ranger subclass that is just as ridiculous as the development of the ranger class itself. The Fishermans Conclave by Reddit user king-starman. The link to the subclass can be found in the description below. With that said, let's see if this subclass will help me catch some interest for the ranger. If not, I guess I'll just go back home to masturbate. The Fisherman's Conclave turns everyone's favorite video game minigame into a combat technique that can be used to catch the deadliest of prey.
What the fuck?
Rangers that are proficient in this patient hobby can mark their targets and reel them back into the fray. This subclass also comes with optional rules on how to go fishing in D&D. I'll be going over that towards the end of the video, so stick around if you want to learn how to catch some fish with your bare hands. When you join the Fisherman's Conclave, you'll gain some new spells to cast on enemies and on local sea creatures, like Create or Destroy Water, Locate Animals or Plants, Tidal Wave, Control Water, and Maelstrom. The first level 3 feature you'll gain is the Fisherman's Mark. When you hit a creature with a melee attack or with a thrown weapon attack, you can place a special mark on the creature. Once the creature is marked, you'll gain 3 benefits when fighting this creature for the next hour. Your first attack each turn can be done with advantage, as long as it's with a ranged weapon or a thrown weapon. If you hit the creature with a ranged or thrown weapon for the first time on your turn, you can deal an extra 1d4 damage to them. This bonus damage will scale up as you reach certain levels, from 2d4 at level 10 to 3d4 at level 17. And lastly, when the marked creature eventually runs away from you and ruins your plans, just like my upcoming 2020 fall plans, you'll gain advantage on survival checks to track down the creature. This mark is an alternate version of the Ranger's signature spell, Hunter's Mark, which also lets you place a mark on a target, deal extra damage to it, and it will grant you advantages on checks to track it down. But since the Fisherman's Mark isn't a concentration spell, unlike the Hunter's Mark, you can technically run both of these marks at the same time, either on 2 separate creatures or on one poor creature. It does require you to use a ranged or thrown weapon to benefit from the Fisherman's Mark, so you have to use such weapons as daggers, hand axes, javelins, light hammers, spears, sibyl ranged weapons, tridents, martial ranged weapons, and of course, the fishing rods from D&D Beyond. Some of these do have the ranged and thrown properties, so you have no excuse not to wield fishing rods as your main weapon of choice. Also at level 3, you'll gain Advanced Equilibrium. Your years of standing your ground while fishing has granted you advantage on saving throws against being knocked prone. You'll also gain a swim speed equal to your movement speed. If you wanted more mobility in the water, then you're in luck. Your next feature, Professional Diving, will grant you resistance to cold damage, and you can cast spells underwater, without the need for verbal components. You'll also be able to hold your breath underwater for up to 1 hour, allowing you to have no problems when fighting any kind of fish or man in the salty depths. The level 11 feature is called Superior Angling. When you have marked your target with the Fisherman's Mark, you can throw one of 3 special techniques at them as an action. Once you perform one of these techniques, their Fisherman's Mark will float away, so you'll have to place another mark on them on your next turn if you want to keep tracking them. With Reel Them In, whenever you hit a creature with a ranged or thrown weapon, you can force them to make a strength saving throw. On a fail, the creature will be knocked prone and dragged up to 10 feet closer to you, just like a fish. After that, there's Fisherman's Rain, which lets you perform 3 attacks on the creature. And all the attacks will gain the bonus damage from your Fisherman's Mark. So, by level 11, the damage bonus will equal to 2d4 damage instead of the original 1d4 damage. And finally, there's Monstrous Netting, for those that are trying to make a run for it as a defense.
Randy lay there like a slug. It was his only defense.
This lets you cast the Entangle spell on the creature without a spell slot. Entangle is a concentration spell that restrains a creature with grasping vines and weeds. You could reflavor this to become a magical fishing net of some kind that snares your enemies. I would recommend it. This is what I'll be using for my upcoming 2020 winter plans.
It's a go.
Let's go!
The final feature is called Hook, Line, and Sinker. With this, ranged attacks made against creatures that are prone can now be done without disadvantage, allowing you to hit creatures with ease. In addition, when you hit a creature with a ranged or thrown weapon, and the creature has been restrained or prone, you can mark it with a Fisherman's Mark, without expending one of your uses for them. This is a situational feature. It's nice to be able to gain additional uses of the Fisherman's Mark, since you'll only have a few at a time depending on your wisdom modifier, but it can only be done if your target is already restrained or knocked prone, and you are able to hit them to place the mark on them. It's not a bad capstone feature, but it could do better. Before we wrap this up, we got the optional fishing rules to flounder over. If you want to catch some fish, you'll have to make a survival check, and depending on the DC, you'll nab a certain kind of fish. For example, if you want to catch a rare fish, you'll need to roll above a 20. But if you roll an 18 instead, you'll find an uncommon fish on the other end of the line. Then, once you hooked yourself a fish, the fish must roll an athletics or acrobatics check, and you must roll another survival check. Depending on the size of the fish will gain a modifier for their roll. The bigger the fish, the higher the modifier. If the fish wins, it escapes, but if you win, then congrats. Fish is
Back on the menu, boys!
Unfortunately, the guide doesn't tell you what kind of fish is available for you to snatch up. It'll be up to your DM on what you just caught. So this is merely the guidelines for your new job. Speaking of jobs, there are also rules on how to sell, cook, and prepare your new catch to feed to your friends. Just to skim it over, it pretty much revolves around making another survival roll to make sure it won't be terrible to eat or look at. I actually found it to be quite similar to how I make every one of my videos.
Started making it, had a breakdown. Bon appetit.
If you want to find other ways to go fishing, then check out the D&D Fishing Minigame by Reddit user Savvy Penrose, the Fishing and Hunting System by Reddit user Yellowbox, and Zebediah's Fishing Techniques and Equipment by Scott Borland from the DM's Guild. These can be found in the description below, and they offer some similar but exciting ways to fish up some interesting creatures, like sagefish, salmon, and junk. Oh yeah, let's talk about that. The Fisherman's Conclave is a little bit on the stronger side when compared to the other Ranger subclasses. It comes with a powerful version of Hunter's Mark, and you'll gain some swimming benefits and damage resistances that make it great for exploration. So at a glance, this seems broken, but in a good way. But then I remember this is for the Ranger, which is already broken, but in a bad way. So I see this as a win. Can 2 broken things combine to make a balanced player class? Who knows? You'll just have to see it for yourself.
You're just like me. Trash!
And with that, that was the Fisherman's Conclave for Dungeons & Dragons. Let me know in the comments of your thoughts of this subclass down below. And check out some of my other videos, like my video on the College of Caterwauling for the Bards, which is a good one, because it's not for the Ranger. Thanks for watching, everyone. Be sure to like and subscribe for more homebrew content and other things fishy. Till next time, bye.